All right, welcome back to the Stronger Than Yesterday podcast. My name is Martin. I'm the founder of Gym Performance and I'm going to be your host for today. So this is less of an informative episode, but more so an update on my personal life. Because we just made some huge life decisions and I decided to create an episode just about that. So first things first, the big news. The very big news are that only a few weeks ago, we decided to cancel our apartment here in Switzerland and basically move abroad. In this episode now, I explain why we did this, where we're going, and why I'm so excited about it. Quick disclaimer at this point, everything I'm going to say is just my point of view. My partner might tell the story a bit different. I will bring up my ideas and my opinions, and chances are that you sometimes don't agree with me, which is fine. I just wanted to bring this up to avoid confusion. It's my opinion, it's my ideas, and it's my narrative. So, let's get started. So before I tell you the reasons why we decided to move out, I think it makes sense that I give you some background information on me, our family, and my story. The story actually goes back to 2017 when I lived in Switzerland, when I still had a 9-to-5. I worked for an online marketing agency, and this winter of 2017 I went to Rio de Janeiro because, well, it's super cold in Switzerland and warm there in Brazil, and this is why I basically every winter escaped Switzerland. I would go to Rio, I would meet Gabriela, a Brazilian who I met the previous year in Australia when I actually also escaped the cold here, and we would go on vacation together. We enjoyed ourselves, and after 2 weeks it was time to get back to Switzerland, to my day-to-day life. So far so good. Then in early 2018, Gabriela went on another trip to a theme park, and there she experienced dizziness, ill-being, and she even had to throw up. At the time we thought it's just because of the roller coasters or that it's some kind of flu, but turns out a few weeks later that she was pregnant. When she called and delivered me the information, I was in shock, as you can imagine. There I am, 25 years old at the time, independent, can do whatever I want, no responsibilities at all, and from one second to the other, just everything changes. I mean, becoming a father was one issue. It was not really scheduled. But the other thing is we had to make a major decision because my life was in Switzerland. I had my family here, my friends here, my job here, and Gabriela, on the other hand, was in Brazil, had her studies there, her family there, and therefore we had to make a huge decision, right? So we contemplated a lot, and eventually I decided that I moved to Brazil. This was very difficult, as you can imagine. And if you're interested in knowing why, then I suggest that you listen to another episode in which I explain it in more detail. Or you can simply grab a copy of my book, The High Performance Body, in which I explain the entire story in more detail too. Anyway, I emigrated to Brazil and the journey began. You know, from learning Portuguese to becoming a father, to getting used to the new culture, to still working in a 9-to-5 remotely from Brazil, right? To scaling my side business at the time, Gym Performance, organizing visa, paperwork, and of course I still wanted to work out all at the same time. And what shall I say? The struggle was real. Okay, it was very overwhelming. I was out of comfort. It was a really challenging time for me. Fast forward 3 years, we decided to leave Brazil and move to Switzerland for various reasons. Mainly because of the increased security in Switzerland, also better quality of life, and the fact that my sister got pregnant too. And I wanted to be here, I wanted to be there for her when that happens. And besides all that, it was time for my family to get to know my daughter and spend time with her. When we moved to Switzerland, I also left my 9-to-5. I went all in with my coaching business, Gym Performance, and Again, just a lot of change all at once. And this is basically where we are right now. We are in Switzerland, Gabriela, my fiance, Lara, my daughter, and myself in an apartment. And honestly, life is good. Life is good. Gabriela even found a job. I work, for my business, Gym Performance. Lara goes to daycare and sometimes to kindergarten. She has her grandparents here who also take care of her. And life is good. Life is good. However, sometimes not exactly the way I expected it to be. Because Switzerland is, as you know, quite cold in winter. And frankly, I hate the cold. I just hate the cold. I hate to wear like 7 layers of clothes. I would rather have like a tank top and shorts all year long. This was in Brazil the case, by the way. I'm a summer person. I love the sun. I love the beach. I love to be outside. And therefore, last winter when we spent time here in Switzerland, it was rather difficult for me, right? Switzerland is also rather expensive. This is something I realized just when I went back from Brazil. Actually, every time I would go away for vacations and come back to Switzerland, then you realize how expensive it actually is. Whether we speak groceries or daycare or like rent, everything is at least 4 times as much as, let's say, in Brazil. It's crazy. And then maybe most important for me, when I came back to Switzerland, this is hard to explain, but I felt kind of stuck because, during those 3 years in Brazil, I went through a lot of change. I developed myself quite a bit. I basically came back from Brazil as a new person, and here I am back in Switzerland, and somehow nothing has changed here. So everything is the same, and I feel just like I progressed so much, but here almost nothing has changed. And for me, that felt like that I'm back in time, that I got stuck. It's really hard to describe actually, but somehow I don't think it's the right environment for me to grow. If I'm honest, I'm very comfortable here, very, very comfortable with the support we have and life here. And as you know, comfort is the enemy of growth, right? And because I'm so comfortable and because the environment doesn't seem right, we spoke about it. We spoke about moving. To be honest, Gabriel and I have been considering moving for a long time. And, I would also talk to a lot of people, friends, family, acquaintances. And the funny thing is, everyone I talked to, everyone basically said Switzerland is right for your family, Martin. And I mean, I can see that for our family, especially for Lara. It makes rationally sense to stay here. But on the other hand, it just doesn't feel 100% right. And I'm going to tell you why. One reason you already know. I'm an absolute sun chaser, and here, especially winter, it's just terrible, not a lot of sun, and people get almost a bit depressed because it's dark and cloudy and cold. Not what I like. I also like adventures, right? I like the challenge. I like to discover new places. I like to confront myself with new stuff. And again, here is just comfort. Okay, I don't really have this exposure to new things, to be honest. And then a third reason, obviously, life is just expensive here. It's really expensive. And considering that I can work from wherever I want with my online business, it doesn't really make sense that we live in the most expensive country in the world, right? On the other hand, there's plenty of reasons why we should stay, right? And I mentioned them before. Security reasons, okay, especially for Lara, is day and night. Brazil and Switzerland, it's literally day and night. The school system is awesome in Switzerland, I believe. We have the support of my parents and my sisters, and I have friends here. Gabriela found a job, which is also awesome, gives her some structure. She earns some money. As you can see, there is pros and cons of living in Switzerland, right? We then actually decided that we would give us some time to make the decision. Okay, we said, I think it was end of last year when we wanted to come to a conclusion, but this actually never happened. This just shows how insecure we were. and we didn't know what's best for us. We just didn't know. We spoke often about it, but honestly, every time we mentioned it, it just brought up this fight almost, this uncertainty. And yeah, it led to many discussions between me and Gabriela, and every time this came up, it ended up bad. It ended up really bad, right? It has to be said that Gabriela is a people pleaser, and she wants to make it perfect for everyone else, and sometimes for the cost of her own well-being. She will often speak for Lara and what is best for her, but sometimes, she didn't express what she actually wanted, or she didn't exactly know. I think a lot of people face this issue, and I'm not saying it's something bad, but it's certainly something that I noticed, and which was very difficult, especially in this decision-making process. Anyway, after one big fight, it was time to stop the argument. It was time to stop lie to each other. It was time to just speak ourselves out, say what we really want, not only what is best for our daughter, but also for us as a couple, and for me, for work, and taking all those things I mentioned before into considerations. And the funny thing was, this might surprise you, Gabriela actually tended to stay in Switzerland, whereas I said I want to move, right? It's actually funny because most people would think a Brazilian in Switzerland probably feels a bit lost, and the culture is so different. And yeah, it was quite interesting actually. It was also not what I expected. I thought probably she wanted to go back to Brazil, but I was wrong. And so we went back and forth. We spoke every day about it. We tried to do lists, pros and cons, and somehow it just didn't really lead to anything, because the list of pros is very long, the list of cons is very long, and one day we would say something and the other day we would say no, this is correct and best for us, and we just didn't come to a decision. Okay, and obviously because we were so uncertain, it made us very insecure somehow, very insecure. Eventually Gabriela told me that she doesn't want to live with Moody Martin for half of the year, because in the winter months I can be moody just like anyone else, because it's dark and rainy and cold. And so she said okay, she's ready to leave Switzerland, and we brainstormed some ideas. And latest at this point, she got very excited too, because of the cool destinations we came up with, right? So the next step then, before we decided what, when, where, we simply quit the apartment. We have now 3 months time to figure it out. This is usual in Switzerland, that you cancel your apartment and still live for 3 months in there. Anyway, we are currently building our journey. We are looking into places, and honestly, this still changes every single day. Initially, we had Portugal in mind. Then we changed the plan and said we would go to Bali. Then we added Brazil to the list so we can visit Gabriela's family. And then we concluded that it doesn't really make sense to go to Bali and then to South America, because it's so far and flights are rather expensive, and also 30 hours or so, 30 hours long. And yeah, that's the status of now, to be honest. We have, okay, it's not fully true. We have actually booked one flight just the other day. We booked one flight to Thailand. So this is going to be the first destination, Thailand. But other than that, we're open for suggestions. So if you know some good places, we are looking into Bali. We are looking into, I said, Thailand, maybe the Philippines, maybe Australia. And this is where we are at right now. This is where we are right now. And I'm excited. I'm super, super excited. We also found an apartment/villa in Thailand. And well, I cannot say much more because it's not definite yet, but it looks super cool. And I'm super, super pumped for this. I'm genuinely pumped for this. And if you ask now, Martin, why don't you go back to Brazil? A fair question, I think, since we lived there already. 3 reasons why I don't really want to go back to Brazil right now. Maybe in the future sometime, but not right now. Number 1 reason is because I want to explore something new. I want to be out of comfort. And if I'm in a place where I've never been, I think this, will just meet those requirements, right? And then second reason, although I love Brazil, I think it wasn't best for my business. The connections I made in the gym or like on the streets or wherever, they were not really fruitful. There was still the language barrier, speaking Portuguese, and then also the weak currency. And then also if I wanted to ship something from Switzerland or from China or from, some gym performance merch, for example, or my book or whatever, it was super costly. I had to pay a lot of import taxes, unfortunately. And I think depending on where we go, this could change. Like in Bali, for example, there are so many digital nomads that speak also English, and maybe I can make some cool connections, which was not really the case in Brazil. And then the third reason, and this you only understand if you have a partner from a foreign country. Because as long as we are around my or her family, one of us always feels more comfortable than the other person. It's like almost a safety net for just one of us. Like if something happens to Gabriela and me, well, she can just go to her parents, or I can go to my parents. Or when I need to buy, no matter what it is, when I need to buy something specific for the apartment, or when I want to travel to a certain place, or when I read something, and all the time this, can you translate this for me, or where can I find what? And for one person it's always so obvious, because we spend so much time in our own country, obviously, and you cannot really be mad at each other, but after a while it just gets annoying, right? For us, for me as a Swiss, some things are just so clear, and I ask myself, why is she asking this? It's so obvious, like even a third class graduate knows this. On the other hand, when I was in Brazil, I had to ask all the time, right? And in the beginning I couldn't even go to the supermarket alone, and this is just a bit annoying. And I think if we go to a place where we are both not home, where we don't know anyone at all, then we are two people, the two of us being uncomfortable, and we are kind of on the same level. Not sure whether this makes sense for you, but I think there's some truth to that, to be honest. Now, what I want to say here is, if you hear that we go to Bali and Thailand and all these places, I mean, that sounds amazing, right? And the few people I already told about our plans, they think it's awesome. However, you have to keep in mind that I will still have my own online business and that I will be working. Besides, we will also have our 4-year-old with us, our daughter, which makes traveling a bit more complex than doing it solo, right? There's also no support abroad, like my parents cannot look after her, neither Gabriela's parents, they're in Brazil. So it's going to be challenging, and as you know, I love the challenge, so looking forward to this. And then what's also very important is that Gabriela and I sat down and just defined what the trip actually is about, because it's not just all fun and games. It's not just a vacation and we hang out and have fun all the time. Instead, it's going to be work and travel. So where I strictly work from Monday to Friday. So this is what I have in mind right now, that I work from Monday to Friday, and then we use Saturday and Sunday to do some cool stuff, to explore new places. I also want to involve Gabriela more into gym performance, so she can, work too for gym performance remotely. The two of us fully remotely. Lara, our daughter, will probably go to the daycare or like Kita, depending on where we go. And this is really the idea. Travel and work, not just vacation, but travel and work in a warm place, and then do the fun activities during the weekend. And then my daily life will probably be the same. I will stick to my routine. The thing that changes is that I can do my daily walks outside at the beach in a warm place. I don't need to wear like pullover and such. Hopefully it's going to be warm, and hopefully there will be no winter. That's my goal, really. That's my goal, really. I want that I don't need to wear a pullover in the next 12 months. 12 months. So let's call this project 12 months without pullover, 12 months without pulley. That's the project, right? And then after our trip in 10 months, 12 months, whatever, maybe it's shorter. We will see. Then it's time to decide where we settle, and then it's also time for Lara to go to school. But for now, we just make use of me being able to work from whatever I can, that Lara is not in school yet, and that we literally can go wherever we want. And how it will be, what we will face, how we will cope, we will see. All I know is that it's going to be an adventure, and that I'm super pumped for what's to come.